last weekend was another one where, tip your caps to the PKers. They just outworked them there.
So just talking about here this past weekend, as I mentioned, 10-2 in the final scoring total. You had a few people on the top scoring category. Shane Haggerty going 3 goals, 2 assists for 5 points. Nick Katola going 2 goals, 3 assists for 5 points. And both of them earning above 5 points in the weekend. I want to see how insurmountable those two have been for you guys.
Yeah, they both bring obviously totally different things to the table. Hags is net front guy, brings size and speed and to the lineup here, and then ability to go to the net is something that everyone can do, but the guys that do it consistently, pay off. And one of those things where he finally went to the net a couple times there, and it hit him and went in. Probably could have had a hat trick there, but at the same time, not being selfish and passing the puck is another thing. That's why you got those assists, and that's what ultimately 5 points is 5 points. Whether you score the goal or you pass it off and your partner scores it, it all feels the same. So it's one of those things where down the stretch here, Hags can be a big part of this team here and really pull us, and we hope he gets us to that point. And then Ket's in their hand, leader on the back end. He's still learning a lot of that structure in the game, so it's one of those things where it's starting to evolve, and it's all about timing too. I'd rather have him go through the struggles throughout the middle of the year. And, he obviously had a little bit of a bang-up in the beginning, so it's been one of those tougher years to kind of get into it. And I think he's finally, execution and finding those little bounces are starting to come. And hopefully throughout the next couple weeks here we get some more bounces and some more production from him even.
So moving on now to the shot total. And the reason why I want to bring this up is when the Zydeco outshoot their opponents now, they are 14-3, 1-3, which 1 regulation win, 3 regulation losses. So when they're outshot during any given point, they're 1-8-4. So I want to just get a feeler out from you. How important is it getting the puck to the net?
Well, it's 14 wins and 1 win, so it's pretty important. Yeah, I mean, we're one of those teams where when we're into the game and we're shooting the puck and we're getting bodies to the net, playing simple, it's that's when we're at our best, and it's not a crazy recipe after hearing those stats too. It's 14 wins comparatively when we outshoot teams comparatively to 1 win when we don't. So, we're one of those teams that needs to have a lot of production in some senses to get the execution. So, I think the numbers are right in front of your face blatantly there.
Yeah, and again, you can't really lie with 14-3 being your record when you outshoot the opponent. And when I'm looking at you guys when you're outshooting the opponent, and especially last weekend, it seems like you guys dictate the flow of play. Is that something that when you're in the pregame, right in the locker room saying, hey, you know what, play your game, or is it something that you're just trying to say, you know what, we need to get more on the offensive side of the puck?
I think our game truthfully dictates from the D zone out, so it's definitely not a thing that we talk about for offense. We definitely don't talk about cheating for offense. It's one of those things where when we're playing our style of hockey, defense first, we're going to actually play more offense just because you're in the right spots. You're communicating. You're typically putting yourself in a position where once we get the turnover, you're able to be in a good spot for your teammates to get them the puck instead of cherry picking and always looking for offense in that sense. So. When we play our style, it's very evident in my opinion. Back to that, I think there's an energy to the whole game that when we're playing at our best here, it's an impressionable thing. You feel it in the whole arena. Whereas when we're not playing, it's another thing. It's you feel it.
Yeah, and just looking at your guys' body language, especially last weekend, it was a lot more confident. It was a lot more of a pep in your guys' step last weekend. And I think, just looking at these numbers, and I'll even throw back the numbers again, you can just tell by just a lot of these numbers. Just taking a look at the power play, for example. You guys were able to score 3 for 10 as opposed to Mississippi going 0 for 9. You guys were able to snuff their power play, who they only had 1 less chance than you, and were a lot less effective. And, a lot of people are saying, well, yeah, three power play goals, big whoop. Look at the percentage, 30% on the power play. And looking at the quality of power play goals that you guys scored, the one from Elijah Wilson was the difference between 2-0 and 3-0. They say worst lead in hockey is 2-0, And further than that, looking at the penalty minutes too. Penalty minutes, Mississippi served 47-24, and it was a high-spirited series last weekend. How did you try to keep your guys, cool, collected, and not getting into the bin?
I think it's one of those things where down the stretch here, you're going to have to always have discipline. I think, like we talked about earlier, with these games being meaningful, it's a different atmosphere for a lot of guys, and it's a different mindset, especially with these games being meaningful. You're trying to position yourself, so some things can get a little personal sometimes, especially in the midst of the game. You got to separate yourself as an individual sometimes and remember that you're on the team here and we're all kind of on a similar goal here. And the only way that a lot of these teams can kind of get to us is if they start to pick at us and, we falter to the little things like that. Like I said earlier, we're really good when we're playing our game here, and that's just something that as a team we're starting to buy into. I think hopefully the next couple of weeks it just we get a full buy-in from the group here, and that leads us into the playoffs.
So finally, we talked about the special teams. We talked about the offensive side of the puck and a little bit of the defensive side of the puck. Now I want to talk about goaltending. Bailey Stevens, I would say, if it weren't for Shane and Katola getting those 5 points, I feel like he would have been the star this weekend. He was the underlying hero who stole the show at moments and nearly got back-to-back shutouts. He saved 51 of 53 shots on the weekend and got a total save percentage on the weekend of a .692, only allowing 2 goals of the entire weekend go by. I want to know how well you think he played.
Yeah, Bales is always, he's a gamer. Not just a gamer, but he works really hard in practice too. I think everyone kind of expects Bailey when he's in the net you're going to have a high energy performance from not only him but the guys around him too. He galvanizes everyone in that locker room. And it's one of those things where we talked about when you feel the energy and you feel the guys playing for one another. It really starts when it's from the back end out. So I think Bales, he stays locked in and engaged, which is always one of those things where. When you're playing and you got that back there where he's going to give it all. You're not questioning that for a second. It just gives you more motivation to go out and go harder for him. So I think it's one of those things where the guys are going to play hard for one another here down the stretch here, and whoever's in the net, could be Bale, could be someone else. If they bring that energy, they bring that 100% compete effort. It's just going to be one of those things that galvanizes the whole group and it flows through the whole group. That energy is contagious.
That one gets saved.
Just going
out to the far hash marks. Zydeco setting up shot with a shot save.
Rebound
scores!
Here against Mississippi.
Giving
you guys
it
got a lot of
out top
quality
of the right
chances,
circle with
a
a
lot
shot,
of
and that one
chances
gets
at the
tipped
net.
wide.
And you were able
Picked
to
up to the
find
near half
one.
wall. Nick
I would
Katola
say
drags it up.
you were able to find a really good kind of few looks at the net, frankly. And I want to know what kind of mentality you had coming into this weekend as opposed to the previous weekend against Monroe.
I don't think our mentality necessarily changed. The way we played didn't even really change. I think, like I talked about, we're trying to really establish this Zydeco hockey way of playing right now here, going down the stretch, getting into playoffs. It's a buy-in. So I think the guys are every weekend. I think it'll feel a little bit more of that buy-in mentality, and as we gear up for playoffs, there's going to be a lot of competition here, and I think. If you're in this business, you want to do this job here, competition can't be something that scares you. It's only got to get you up, and, these guys here should be really happy and really, they should have a lot to give right now. It's a lot of, this is the best time of year to be playing. It's warm weather right now here in Baton Rouge. It's starting to feel like playoff hockey here, and in a couple weeks it's going to be here, hopefully. So we're in a good spot to dictate that, and from here on out, it's one of those things where it's just competition.
And just one final look overall here at the weekend. Just recapping real quick. Shane Haggerty broke out of a 7-game goalless streak, scoring 3 goals on the weekend, 2 assists for 5 points. Thomas McGuire broke out of a 7-game pointless streak himself, earning 4 assists. And Nick Katola has 5 points in the past weekend, 1 goal, 1 assist in the first game, 1 goal, 2 assists in the second game. And he's actually entering a 4-game point streak after last weekend. Special teams again able to get it done, cashing into 3 straight times here on the weekend, and Bailey Stevens again was able to kind of circumvent any chances that went against him, able to save 51 of 53. So now just talking about here on the off week, after this past week, stellar week from you guys. What's the main goal?
Yeah, recoup here, regroup, and re-energize for the next couple weeks here. It's going to be quickly that we're back on home ice here, which is always exciting. We're really excited to get back in the River Center. But we got 1 or 2 more weekends before that we got to take care of business here. And, like I said, every game here and every point matters from here on out. So we're really excited.
And I would ask you, what's the main takeaway here from the Seawolves this past weekend that you're going to try to take into next weekend?
I think it's one of those things where we're just going to continue to look at ourselves here every weekend. Every weekend we're going to try to improve how we play and what we do best. And that's Zydeco hockey. That's what we're going to work on the next couple weeks here against Mississippi.
And it's been a few games that you guys have played Mississippi. 3 games so far, and you still have another 2 coming up this next weekend. So from a coaching standpoint, how do you keep things fresh? What's the game plan, for at least just trying to shake things up?
I don't think you shake things up too much. You're in a winning streak right now. This time of the season's already kind of one of those hectic things as it is with college seasons ending and junior guys coming in. You'll see some faces. We get the additional roster spots now. So, this is when recruiting for, pushing for that playoff spot and making your team as competitive as possible is huge. And also, you want to see for next year already. It's one of those things where this is nonstop business. Organizations are always improving and getting better, and we're one of those organizations that's trying to push for the future here. And we're really looking forward to the next couple weeks here because we got a big push here in front of us, and it's really exciting to be in the spot we are.
Yep, one final weekend here for you guys on the road trip before you head back to the River Center here in Baton Rouge. You guys excited to play back at home?
No, we're definitely excited to get back at home.
Yep, and now we are definitely excited to see all of you Zydeco fans back here at the River Center supporting your Zydeco. If you want to get your tickets, call 225-515-PUCK. Email Lucy at brzydeco.com for any of your group ticketing needs, or visit our Ticketmaster page to secure your home tickets today. Tickets will go fast, so make sure you guys secure it. Coach, thank you so much for joining us here on the
Brian,
show.
Thank you.
All right, next up, your featured Momentum Building Services player interview as he relives last weekend's magic in Biloxi and shares some stories about his hockey background is Shane Haggerty. Don't want to miss it. Stick right with us.
You'll see every touchdown in HD. Place your bets and feel the thrill of every play with our DraftKings Sportsbook, the Queen Casino, where every moment is a win.
The Men's Network started when I went to a computer club meeting in the 7th grade that Brett organized. At that point, I had never met anyone that was as good at computers as Brett was. And by the 8th grade, we figured out that this was something that we could do professionally.
So we moved to Baton Rouge to go to LSU, and that's really where our business got planted.
Give Immense a call. Let us show you how IT should be done.
There's a time we all know is coming, but nobody knows just when. If you don't have a plan or you don't understand how or where to begin, at Church Funeral Services, we'll handle it all with care and passion. Church Funeral Services.
Find more of what you're looking for at L'Auberge Baton Rouge. More of the games you love, more of the flavors you crave, more staycation relaxation. All this plus an exceptional staff. Add more to your story at L'Auberge Baton Rouge.
Welcome back here to 1717, here for our Momentum Building Services featured player interview. I have a guy who scored 5 points on the weekend against the Seawolves, and I would say a very good-looking guy here up on the booth, and definitely bringing the looks per capita here up by a lot. Shane Haggerty joins me on the show. First of all, I want to ask, nervous to be on camera?
Not really. It's the first time this year, but I'm not really nervous, but excited.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. And I can also see why did you choose me? Why can't I be home right now? So, how was the trip for you to Biloxi?
Not too bad. It's only a short bus, 2-3 hours, depending on how many times you stop. So not too far, not too short. But it gives you enough time to mentally prepare, ready to play, and then gives you enough time to decompress after the game as well.
I got to ask, who's your favorite busmate?
I will say I think I do gravitate towards Elijah Wilson and Aaron Shaheen. But one thing I love about our team is that it's not really – you don't really have, the click on the bus. You ride the bus. Everyone's talking to everybody at all times. So I think that's my favorite part about our team. But I would say those two are the guys that gravitate towards the most.
Yeah, I think my favorite busmate's definitely Keith. Has a whole lot of stories to tell you. So, just going into your background here in hockey, started off in juniors, like a lot of these guys in the USPHL. You played one season there with MJPD as well as the Metro Jets. You actually earned 29 points with MJ, and you played 2 games with the Metro Jets. Were you actually teammates with a couple of guys who played in Metro?
So how Metro works is that they have 2 teams. They have the MJDP, who are basically younger guys, and then they have the main team, the Metro Jets. When I was there on the DP, Brody Thornton was on the other team, so I knew Brody pretty well. But then Garrett and Aaron were not there when I played. But it's a small community. They always say once a Jet, you're always a Jet, and that's kind of stayed true because you kind of know everyone who plays there throughout the years.
Yeah. So is there anybody here that you kind of look at like, hey, it's you?
I guess more Brody, because it's kind of funny. We played against each other in college for 4 years or 3 years, and then now playing with him again in pro. It's pretty cool.
And you actually had a sizable career here in the USP. You had a total 34 games played. Was there any standout moment for you?
We did that DP team was the first ever year they did it, and we kind of had to just build our own team own reputation. Nothing really stands out besides that we still keep in touch to today. It's been so long that I don't really remember one game, one shift, but we all still keep in contact. At least with some of the guys, we try to get back in touch every 2-3 times a year, which isn't usually normal for most teams. So I think that's one of the things that sticks out to me the most. So
you mentioned it was one of the first times you guys had to do that. So you guys had to create not only the identity on the ice, but you also had to create the culture in the locker room. What was that experience like?
I'm not gonna lie, it was difficult at first. It was very hard because it's the same thing as I'd say minor leagues. Everyone thinks that they should be at the next level, but there's a reason why you're not, and you have to try and improve. And that's kind of what we bonded around. Hey, we're in this together. We might as well make the most of it. And the coaching there was unbelievable. They were very supportive of us too. It wasn't like they looked at one team a different way. They teach us the same things, do the same drills. So it really helped us improve, but us coming together really made us thrive that year.
And what was the kind of main lesson that you took from that experience to kind of try to plug it into your later college years and now your pro years?
So I didn't really understand it until COVID. We'll get more of that later, but just the learning to love the game. That's the reason why you got to be there at the end of the day. And if you're not, then usually results, and you're just not going to be happy. And I think that's the biggest thing I learned, and I can take that into college and into now.
So speaking of college, you actually played for the Grand Valley State University, and you played a few years with them. You got called up from their ACHA D2 club to their D1 club in 21-22, and your total points actually improved from D2 to D1. You went from 34 points in 33 games to 75 points in 36 games. What was the thing that changed for you from D2 to D1?
So when we went from D2 to D1, so it was our whole team. It wasn't just like it wasn't a separate team. So there was 8 of us that ended up going from D2 to D1, and then we had a whole fresh round of rookies. And in between those 2 years was our COVID year, and we did not get to play. So that was kind of like my extra junior year to develop. And I think that's where I learned to love the game and love going to the rink every single day, and it skyrocketed my points. And also playing with great line mates there too, who are still like my best friends. They helped me a lot too. Like I can't take the whole ownership of that. It was very line driven. So I think that was the biggest difference, is getting the love for the game back.
And what helped generate that love back for you?
I think just it being taken away. Like with COVID, like your university shut us down. We got to practice, but we didn't get to play, and it was really hard on everybody. And I think that just naturally, like, hey, like time's almost up. You might as well enjoy it. I think that's what did it for me.
I think that kind of took the pressure off. Just like noticing it's just like, you know what? Yeah, I do have just this finite time to play college hockey, but could be worse. Couldn't have it at all.
Exactly.
Yeah, I definitely sympathize with that, and I think that's very interesting. That's actually a really interesting point to bring up for yourself. It's just a lot of guys, they just talk about, it's like, oh well, we wish I could have played. But with you, it's just like, no, I really wish I could have played, and I want to savor all the time that I have. Do you still have remnants of that here for your pro career too?
Absolutely. I have like my friends back home who quit playing. Like I see what they're doing every day, and it's like, wow, I should just really try to enjoy what we're doing. And I think as the year's gone on, I've started to enjoy it a little more each day. Obviously, there's ups and downs in the season, but I think doing this is what I love, and I'm going to try to continue it as long as I can.
And you mentioned up and downs. You recently broke a pointless streak, and I want to get into kind of your head for a second. Mm-hmm. You mentioned being wanting to savor every moment. Even when you're in the down spurts, is that something that you just try to keep in the back of your head? Is like, you know what, it could be that COVID season, I could not be playing right now, and is that something that kind of like tries to motivate you?
A little bit, but for me, like, points aren't like, they matter, but for me they don't. As long as we win, it doesn't really matter to me, and if I feel like I'm helping the team win, that's where I'm happy. Obviously it gets frustrating when you lose and you have 0 points. That makes you want to think, what could I have done differently? But I felt like over the past 2 months, I can see myself starting to improve as a player. So it didn't get me down too bad, but there are some goals left on the board where I think if maybe I scored or made a better pass, we could end up winning some more games, and that's what ultimately makes me upset. And then we do have like the 10-minute rule after games, so you can be upset for like 10 minutes, and then as soon as you're done, get on the bus, it should be over. And I think taking that into account has helped too.
So, no, you said points don't really matter, but I just want to harken back here. ACHA D2 to D1, you improved exponentially from D2 to D1, earning 34 points in D2, 75 in D1. So, how much more different was D1 as opposed to D2 in ACHA?
If I'm being honest, it wasn't a huge difference, I thought. I thought the high level of D2 was pretty good. But when we went to D1, it was more skilled, but we got to play together for 2-3 years. Like this 7-8 guys, we were all on the same power play too, so that helped. Like our power play was really good that year. But it was, I think it was more we played together for a while, and we got to learn each other's tendencies, and I think that's what really helped. But I think it's in the ACHA, like it's at every level. Like there's the top end, bottom end. The top end's pretty good, but you get some teams in the bottom there that kind of ruin the reputation, I feel like. Yeah,
and I've actually called that. That's how I got my career start, was calling ACHA Division II, and I definitely saw the highs and the lows. I used to call for the USC Trojans back in the day, and they weren't bad by any means, but you definitely see the top end, with the Oregon Ducks, who actually went up to D1, and then you have San Diego State, who are now again D1, and then I think the more prominent group that I've ever called was the Michigan group, where they, like you guys, they had a D1 NCAA squad, but then a D2 ACHA squad. So it's like that's a on paper, you see NCAA, guys who play in the Frozen Four, and then you see ACHA Division II. You think that's a big separation, but honestly, it pretty much. I wouldn't say that it wasn't in the sense of these guys can definitely. There's definitely a difference, but it's just I wouldn't be surprised if I saw any of those D2 guys play up in the NCAA one day.
Yeah, I mean, last year we actually got to play against Ferris State, which is our in-state rival for D2, because Grand Valley is an NCAA D2 school.
Yeah.
But Ferris State has an NCAA D1 program, and so they reached out to us and we played against them. And you could obviously they kind of killed us, but what I noticed going from ACHA to FPHL to NCAA, the game is the same. The habits that make you successful, they're the same. The speed's obviously a little different and how quick the puck moves, but in general, it's usually the same game because it's hockey. You got to play hockey at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I feel like with you have a very headstrong way of playing. I don't mean that in any disrespectful way. I mean in the way that it doesn't matter, like you said, points don't matter to you. It's all about the end product. And now it kind of brings us here to your pro career. Starting off in the Zydeco, you played a couple games in 23-24. I want to know what your kind of play style was like when you first got into the Fed. How did it evolve from your college days?
I like to think I still play kind of a similar way. I will say my first impression last year is that the league is fast. It is a jump from the ACHA. I'm just going to be honest, I don't think last year I was totally prepared because there's, like in college, there's a stigma about the Fed. It's the same way there is about the ACHA. And I think having that off season to fully kind of prepare for it helped me a lot going into this year. But my first impression was wow, these guys can play. I think it was Port Huron last year. They had some good players. And I knew I had to change the way I kind of did things in order to be ready for the season coming up.
What was that shell shock like for you when you first came in and it was just talking about a few people that I talked to in the USPHL, a lot of them have that, coach mentality of if I ever got a chance in the Fed, I could kill it in there. And it's like, really? What was that like for you?
For me, obviously I thought I'd kill it. You never want to think you're going to go and suck at the next level. But I will say last year it was humbling when, I forget the forward's name on Port Huron, but he made it, danced around me, made it move through my feet. And that at Grand Valley, it never happened. No one ever did that to me. I'm like, oh, all right. So the competition level just that was my first impression, just raised my expectations of what I got to do now. And I think from then on, I realized hey, I got to be quick. I got to be a lot faster.
And what was the biggest lesson that you took from that first year that you tried to apply here to this next year?
Just to be ready when the puck hits your stick. Because I would say at Grand Valley, I'd catch a pass, I'd have a second, another second, and then I can move it. Now it's catch and go. And I think that's the biggest lesson I've learned is you just got to be quick. So how did you just try to start adjusting here to the style of play that the Zydeco have? I'm not going to lie, with Coach Everett, the systems that I ran in junior are kind of similar. So it hasn't been too big of an adjustment, but I think just the effort level that's needed is a lot different. The way that we play, you have to be you can't have an on and off switch like Coach always says, and I think that's been tough to adjust to sometimes because in club you at practice you kind of just you're out there kind of just. I don't want to say not trying, but sometimes you guys we goof off. We goof off a little bit. And I think that's been the hardest thing to adjust to. But it's also finding that medium where if you're too serious, then sometimes it doesn't work in your favor. You just find that good line of serious, but also having a good time out there.
Now, I feel like that's one thing that I've noticed about your style of playing. And just getting back to what I said, it wasn't more of headstrong. It was more of intensity. When I see you getting into the dire areas, into the boards, you're very intense. And when you battle your way to the front of the net, you have a very large presence where it's just you'll notice if you're in front of the net. You're a very big, puck battler. Where did that develop?
I think, if I'm being honest, I think it more developed. I've never been the fastest. I've never claimed to be a fast skater. So you have to win your battles. In the corners, on the wall. I learned that at a very young age, is that if you're not good, you have to make a play. If you're not as fast, you got to make a play. And with that, a lot of times it's just winning a battle in the corner or in front of the net. And I think using my body to shield the puck has been something that I've gotten better at over the years. But yeah, I think it's just from not being the best skater my entire life. I think that's really where that's came from.
And obviously a lot of confidence has to go into just having that physical prowess, especially if you're going to be going into pretty much a war zone every night.
Yeah, I mean, for me too, it's like you see other players on that team do it too. Like you see Tyler Larwood go out there and not he goes through 3 guys every shift. He works so hard, and it's like if he can do it, why can't I do it? And I think that's one of the best parts about him as our captain. I mean, and then other guys do it too, but that's just one that stands out to me. That if he can do it, then I got to be doing it too. And I think that's kind of where I need to start. I need to be better at it still, but just looking at him that way, I think is a good thing for me.
So, going into this past weekend, I mean, what was your confidence level like? Because again, 5 points here in 2 games, that's nothing to really shake your head about. That's something that you really had to have earned.
I wouldn't say my confidence changed, but I did go from center to wing this past weekend after being a winger in college. So I think I was more comfortable, and then being used to the pace now of a winger, yeah, I think that helped me a lot. And obviously playing with Scott Schrock and Jake Cox helped a lot too. They did a lot for me. I just had a bunch of net front goals. But I think it's something to build on. Like I mentioned earlier, I felt like I had chances throughout the year to score. I just didn't put the puck in the net, didn't execute. But I think from moving forward, I think that with this past weekend, I proved that I can do it, and we'll try to just build on it.
So for us hockey illiterates out there, and I'm putting myself in that category too, other than needing to take the face-off, what is the fundamental difference between center and wing?
Center and wing, mainly it's center. You have to be defensively more responsible. I feel like I would take on more of a defensive role, trying to shut down other teams' top players. I mean, that more came from with playing with Kevin and Elijah, where they're so offensively skilled that I need to be defensively responsible. And then winger, I wouldn't say you don't forget about defense, but it's a different type of defense where going from goal line to goal line is a lot different than going from top of the circle down. And I think with center, I mean, I was naturally center until college, so it wasn't a big adjustment for me. But I think just seeing the game as a winger helps me. But I do like taking face-offs too. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. Is there like a strategy that you have when it comes to face-offs?
There is. I always try to see what the other opponent's doing before I go in. Like if we're in an O-zone draw, I know the winger or their center is going to probably went to the corner, and I look at how his stick is lined up and if I can beat him clean or if I have his stick away or tie up. I go off of what the other guy's doing. Otherwise, and that I learned that actually when I was like 15, 16 years old. I was just warming up before like a youth game, and some guy came over and was like, "Hey, teach you how to take face-offs," and he's helped me since then.
That's freaking sick. You know, there was a Edmonton Oilers / LA King back in the day. They actually made a rule about his face-off because it was a little cheeky what he used to do. His name was Jarrett Stoll. What he would used to do is when he would get into the face-off position, he would actually kind of cheat himself above the hash mark line. And right when they dropped it, he would throw his shoulder into the opposite center and then try to win it from his legs. So can't do that anymore. But I could just imagine all the little nuances that go into face-offs and all the little tricks and traps that you guys have as centermen.
Yeah, it's like the old saying, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. That's all face-offs is. I don't particularly try to cheat as much. What a lot of people like to do is like they'll have their stick down, and as soon as he goes to drop it, they'll lift it up and come back, which those people make me very upset. But I think I've figured out a way to not necessarily have to cheat or get thrown out of face-offs, because that's my biggest pet peeve is getting thrown out of face-offs. But yeah, it's taken me a long time to kind of figure it out, but when you snap it back clean, it's a good feeling. I'm not gonna lie.
That has to be like the most satisfying thing.
Especially when the opposing center says some words where he's upset, and that makes me kind of laugh half the time.
So, what's more satisfying to you? A clean face-off win after someone shit talks you, or bar down?
I don't know. I don't think I've gone bar down in quite some time, so I would have to say that. But snapping it back clean, especially in like the offensive zone, it's because for the most part, like it sets you up for offense, and that's what I like. So I think snapping it back clean, it does feel pretty good too.
You know what they call that in broadcasting? Everybody gets one. So, speaking of everybody gets one, when you get kicked out of the face-off twice, you obviously get a penalty. So, when you get kicked out of the face-off and say that your winger gets kicked out of the face-off, who's the one that goes to the box?
Ooh, actually, I don't know. If I'm being honest, I'd put the guy who jumps second. I'm pretty sure that's usually how it goes, or they can just pick someone from the ice. Yeah, I have not seen that called in a long time. I think maybe once in college, and I've never seen it here. It's not something that gets called often. But yeah, I think it'd probably be the winger who goes in.
Well, that's actually pretty. And again, for me, I always love just talking shop, especially about face-offs, because I mean, when I was a kid, I always dreamt of being a centerman, but obviously, that didn't happen. But just, I guess, one last question here for you. When it comes to, this next coming weekend, when it comes to this pretty much the rest of the season, what's one thing that you're personally going to be trying to play through and just try to dial in?
Well, for this weekend, trying to experience Mario Golf for the first time, so I'm excited for that. I know a bunch of the guys are, because we're totally new to it. We have no idea what's even going to happen. But going into the rest of the season, not really focusing on anything besides just trying to put our team in the best position to win. That's whatever role the team needs me to be in. If I need to be that check-in forward, I'll go and do that. If I need to put the puck in the net, I'll try and do that, obviously, too. But it's just trying to put the team in the best position to win, doing what I do.
All right, so heard it from the man here first. I would say first star of the weekend here for Shane Haggerty. And, thank you so much for joining the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, before we go, just want to give one final thanks to all of you out there listening here in Zydeco land, and especially the season ticket holders. And thank you so much to our Booster Club for everything that you do. If you want more information about the Booster Club, scan the QR code to get more info. Email brzydecoboosters@gmail.com or follow them on BRZ Boosters Club on social media to keep up to date on anything here for the Boosters Club. And again, if you want to get your tickets to see Mr. Shane Haggerty and head coach Everett Thompson live at Raising Cane's River Center as they take on the Danville Dashers in 2 weeks' time, you can call 225-515-PUCK or email Lucy at brzydeco.com. We hope to see you guys there next time. And again, thank you so much to the Queen Baton Rouge and 1717 for allowing us to set up shop here for the Coaches Show. So until next week for the Coaches Show, my name is Brian Flores. This has been Shane Haggerty and head coach Everett Thompson, wishing you a great night and a most pleasant good evening.
Are home problems turning your life upside down? Trust Southern Air Cooling, Heating, Plumbing, and Electrical to save the day. From electrical issues to keeping you comfortable, plumbing repairs, and even generators, we do it all. Southern Air Cooling, Heating, Plumbing, and Electrical, your one-stop solution for electrical, AC, plumbing, and generators. If you need us to save the day for you, call or visit us online at southernnairbr.com.